All right, welcome everybody to another edition of FitFoot U. And after a trial start with some unusual circumstances, we're getting ready to talk about 3D printing. So my special guest tonight is Yong. He is the chief engineer for a company called OLT. And I want you to briefly explain this revolutionary process that you've been a part of the ride. Tell us how you got into it and your background, and then where you see it going briefly in the future, Yong.
Okay.
And welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introductions. It's my pleasure speaking to all of you tonight. I was involved in 3D scanning since 1990s, mainly for automotive industry. We build the systems for Honda, Toyota, Nissan, that kind of big automotive companies. One day when we're working in office in Michigan, I got a phone call from orthotic lab, which I think is Illinois based. So he's want to scanning patient's foot. That's the starting point for me to know there is a custom foot orthotic industry existing. And I was surprised. So by that time, our scanner is probably industry standard scanner. It's very expensive. And also there's no 3D printers. So everything is done by CNC milling machines. After about a couple years, 3D scanner getting better and cheaper, and the 3D printers taking off. At that time, I think probably that's a good project to merge 3D printing with 3D scanning and use that on custom foot orthotics. So that's our starting point. It has been about 6 or 7 years ago when we started, and now we got a lot of doctors using them, and we are still doing a lot of R&D on the software side of it. And so this is the whole story. Back to you, Ben.
What's really exciting to me, Yong, is that you can spin out from a nylon spool this type of device, and you can see the swirls on it. Those are that's the layering of the 3D print, and it's an additive print technology. So it's literally layering it from the base where it traces the bottom portion of the orthotic and then adds layer by layer as it builds up until you get your contouring. What I find as the game changer with this type of technology is, unlike the traditional central lab model where, and I had an example of this today, where I wanted to call in a reprint of an orthotic with a lab that is in the Midwest. And this particular situation was that the orthotic just needed a different top cover, and I wanted to make it a little bit more of an arch. The bottom line is it's going to take about 4 weeks because of supply chain issues with the pandemic, and also for a period of time we had there were staffing issues at the orthotic labs. The beauty of this technology is it allows us to, within a day or two, you can literally print out, and like this one that we have going on currently, and I'll show it in the background. This is the right foot. We've already printed the left foot, and this literally is going to be spun out in about an hour and 40 minutes because it's a 3/4, about a size 7 or 8 foot. So what I'm finding is that patient compliance has gone way up because of the fact that these 3D orthotics are now available in a very short time duration, and we are getting buy-in from not only the patient themselves, but let's say a patient family member who has interest and curiosity in 3D print. I've already had patients that in the waiting room, while they're waiting to see, either ask me about the 3D printer or are interested in finding out more about what the process is for 3D orthotics because they've seen the technology somewhere else. I had one patient that had figurines. He's got like a hobby 3D print. So what I'm finding is that patients are more vested, and in particular with family members. So if they have a child that they want to get an art support for, and they know and have confidence that they can get a reiteration or reprint of that same orthotic with some tweaks, or that it's going to be very easy as the child moves up sizes to either change slightly the length or simply do a recast and then have another printed orthotic. Yong, you've mentioned some technology innovations on the horizon, and one was very fascinating to me because I've traditionally been doing it with the iPad. I like the technology with that, and I don't know if it was the same one that when I had heard also that from a manufacturing standpoint, the original cameras were measuring engine blocks, and when you have thermal expansion where it's just a few millimeters of thermal expansion, you can actually capture that with the original 3D print technology software. Tell us though about some of the new things that are going to be available that make it even more convenient.
We are in the beginning when we started. The 3D scanner is a sort of a stationary big scanners. You just put the foot out and do the scanning, which is a big, heavy, and it's not portable at all. And then we move on to iPad. In the past maybe 5 years, we have been using iPad. The problem with iPad is you have to charge that structure sensor, and also the cable connected to the iPad always sometimes working, sometimes the cable tell you there's no sensor. And yeah, I mean that was and also you need a calibration from time to time, so that was a little bit difficult to use. Then about 2 years ago, iPhone become available with Face ID on that. So actually Face ID is sort of a 3D scanner. You project infrared dots, like 30,000 of them onto your face, and then use a camera, infrared camera to calculate XYZ for those dots, and use the 3D information to unlock your phone, basically, so you can unlock your phone when it is totally dark. So we come up with the problem with Face ID actually is because it's in the front. When you try to scan a foot, if you use the front Face ID, you cannot see the screen. So we come up with a special mirror we call the scan mirror, which can reflect the Face ID camera into like 90 degrees, so you can both see the foot object and also the screen. So basically everybody with iPhone already has a 3D scanner in their pocket. They can just use it to scan a patient's foot and then upload from there. So this is something new here. So we're gonna have 3D scanning based on iPhone or iPad Pro with no extra sensors to attach on. And then we go from there. Back to you, Paul.
Some of the iterations that have been fun to do with you, Yong, have been the idea of, for instance, adding a Mortons extension. I'm right now, believe it or not, wearing something that has a Mortons extension. It's something that I designed for turf toe and hallux limitus. But Mortons extensions are sometimes things where I want to use that extra stability point for the first ray, which is such a crucial pivot point. And when we started talking about it, you were able to take the opposite of an inverted or reverse Mortons extension and reprogram the software so that on the next meeting that we had, you were able to make a positive Mortons extension. And what I found and what I find gratifying about this whole process is it's a learning tool and experience. So when I used the Morton's extension, I found that this particular patient, I'm going to show you an example, he had a bunion. So that meant that his toe was actually out here on the edge of the orthotic. I'm just using my index finger to show where his toe was. So it was actually going over the Morton's extension. So what you showed me, Young, was a feature where you can actually adjust and swivel the forefoot, which I've never seen done in a traditional orthotic lab where they have that kind of swivel ability to have those specific custom widgets that you can manipulate the orthotic like that. Then the other thing that happened on the first iteration of the print was that we found that the Morton's extension, that extra piece that was there under the first toe, that widget, if you will, was a little bit too proud or too prominent. So I took it to my sanding grinder in the back and I just beveled the edges, took it down about 1/16 of an inch, and then beveled the edges more till we got to a satisfactory point for the patient. And this ended up with a big win. And the patient was impressed that we were able to use the power of just the manipulations and the grinding wheel to make a satisfactory device for him. So he was very pleased. The other thing that we did with the orthotic that did not work, I still used that in a different format for more of an off-the-shelf insert. So I didn't throw it out. I simply cut off the part of the length of the orthotic. I found another size 11.5 or 12 foot that didn't have the budget to purchase a custom orthotic. And we talk about libraries of matching feet and matching systems. And this library of this particular print matched very closely to what I was trying to accomplish. Print. So the nylon is approximately $7 per print. And what that means is that for an average foot, all you have is the data cost of downloading the data, which is about 15 plus the $7. And then when you want to do a reiteration or a reprint, you don't have to have that same data file because you already own the data. So then it's basically your cost of the nylon filament. I find the nylon filament to be very comfortable for patients. It's flexible, but it has almost like a synthetic cork leather sort of, I would say, durometer. And patients find these particular orthotics very comfortable just to wear a lot of times without any added top cover. If I find a patient that wants a top cover, we can use things like, here's an example, something like eucalyptus, and it's very easy to glue these on, or marine grade vinyl, which lasts a long time, and then you can add all the metatarsal pads, etc., right on the orthotic. We have examples where we have the metatarsal pad, and I don't know if you can see this with the resolution, but the metatarsal pad is actually built right into the orthotic. Now, this particular patient wanted a little bit more and a little bit more cushioning, so I told her we can just add a little bit of a eucalyptus top cover, and I'll add a little pour-on to the already existing metatarsal pad. Young, maybe tell me some of the success cases that you've heard about using, I guess, the convenience of 3D print. I know Paul Langer was telling me that Dr. Paul Langer was telling me he had a high-level athlete that he was able to get that orthotic the next day or later in the afternoon. What are some of the other things that you think are inherently an advantage with the system that you developed?
Everything is digital. The whole process is digital. So a lot of things can be saved. Let's say lot of things can be changed. So we have over 20 parameters you can change on each orthotic device. So
Can you
basically,
give a couple examples of some of the most common things, such as like the Kirby Sky and some of the
Kirby,
things that?
okay, Kirby Skype and 4-foot valgus virus and the real foot valgus virus and arch height, arch locations, and the heel lift. And also we also have a mat pad you can build in. You can change the location, orientation, and the size and the height of mat head. And also we have a pressure relief and facial groove. And we also have a first mat head cut off. So we have so many other things.
Yep.
In other
You've
things,
talked
well,
also. Go ahead, Young. Sorry to cut you off.
okay,
Go
in
ahead.
other things we are working on, actually, we call digital impression. It's basically everybody know there's a phone box to take impression of the foot. We just turn that process into a digital form. So you scan your foot, it's in the computer, and in the computer we create an insole or orthotic. Basically, we just use a foot to make impression on that orthotic device digitally. So basically, you can create a total contact orthotic device from that process. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to try this in any of the big diabetic clinics? I know Dr. David Armstrong, who's one of the leaders in our profession with diabetes, would probably be very interested, particularly if it meets the criteria with the trilaminate layers, the plastizode and the poron that are required to meet a quote diabetic grade insole. Have you had that interface yet, or is that something that is in the development stages?
In the development stage, we are not officially release that function yet, but in coming weeks.
Well, when it does become a reality, I would be happy to put you in touch with Dr. David Armstrong at Keck, and he's just really into innovation. I joke and call him the sort of the Elon Musk of podiatry, because he embraces high level technologies, and I think it would be a good fit. So I will certainly be talking to him after this segment about that, because this is a news item to me. I did not know how far down the line you were with getting that like full contact type diabetic grade orthotic that you speak of, because that's such a relevant thing for podiatry, with diabetes being one of the fastest growing diseases. And coincidentally, next week or next 2 weeks in November is Diabetes Awareness Month. So I think that would be, if somehow you could make that happen before December, Young, that would be a real feather in your cap if you can. But I know that the formatting and system checks and things that you do that are very thorough, take their due time. So it'd be great if it could coincide with Diabetes Month. But I'm sure you're going to get it right, and it'll be something that I'm sure will be a very valuable tool.
Okay,
What
thank you.
material was Young planning to use for the diabetic orthotic?
Come again, Steve?
The software gonna create the model, and then it's up to the doctor to decide what material to use. If you want to use CNC machining, you can use just EVA sort of things, and also put on some poron top cover on that. Or you can also do 3D printing, but you definitely need a top cover according to the diabetic standard.
Yeah,
Yes.
as I understand it too, the top cover could be something, for instance, like the softest layer of plastizode. So that could count as your quote top cover,
Yeah,
because of the trilaminate aspect. And another person that knows a lot about this is there's a DME guru, Paul, in New York, and he's like, I'll have to get you his last name, but he's very knowledgeable on this area. But these standards are commonly put out within the diabetic prosthetic and orthotic industry. So I'm sure you'll get with the right people to make sure that the formatting is correct and reimbursable. One other thing I just wanted to add on a more personal note about Yong is, as soon as I got this sort of big hobby box that is a professional grade printer, once we got through the sort of the IKEA stage of putting the thing together, which took some dedicated time, and then getting sort of the language of 3D print and the formatting with downloading the files comfortable, we ran into just a minor technical thing with one of the printing heads. And to show you how much that Yong is dedicated to keeping patient flow, he FedExed a new printer head so that we didn't have to fiddle around with tools to make a small adjustment that had occurred with shipping. He FedExed that. Not only did he FedEx that, but because he has the ability to be a central lab, he printed the 3D print orthosis that was in production at our clinic, so that we would be able to save time, that we had that print and could dispense it to the patient. So I think that's someone that is not only has good business sense, but has a dedication to the patients that we serve. And at the end of the day, if we aren't serving our patients in a what I call sort of the clinical therapeutic moment, we can disenfranchise them. And that's been a whole nother topic about how worn at the threads our patient population and communications can be during this very stressful time for everyone during the pandemic. It's really added another sort of unspoken layer with the whole formatting, with getting good patient care, getting good orthotics, and anything that, in my mind, that we can do that is one step more direct, and having this ability to do this right in our office and have that, ready in the waiting in the wings, I think is a big win. Does anybody so far have any questions? And I know we lost a couple of our people earlier because of that earlier issue. Anybody have any other thoughts that they want to convey about questions about where the 3D print industry is going? I will say this. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was until I started talking to people like Simon Bartold that told me that, and Paul Langer, Dr. Paul Langer, that basically have done research to show that this is one of the biggest growing things for 3D printing, which and also pertaining to semi-custom iterations of matrices for the midsoles of running shoes. Yong, how did you come to find that this growth point was going to be as big as it was? What cued you into that growth curve with footwear and more specifically with orthotics for 3D print?
I think it's gonna go really big from here. Actually, we feel really comfortable with the scanning right now. Actually, with the app, people can just use their phone to scan their foot.
Do you have an illustration of that, Yong? Do you have that available?
No, it's in my office. Sorry, I didn't bring
Oh,
it
that's
home.
okay. You
Yeah,
imagine, if you will, imagine that you have your iPhone and it's almost like a little angled mirror that comes down. And what that does is it opens up a bigger scanning area and makes it very convenient to scan the foot. With the iPad, you have to kind of move it all the way around. So this just allows a little bit easier manipulation to 3D scan the foot for either a central lab or your home office print. Now, I know we're getting into the last couple minutes of the recording and the session. We can sign back in if anybody wants to, and and we can certainly continue. But are there any last questions before we sign up? And thank you so much, Yong, for allowing this format to happen. And I look forward to doing it again with at some point in the future with a larger panel and some other information as you continue to grow. To me, a very exciting industry.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have about like 200 printers worldwide doing
That's
food orthotics right now.
fantastic. That's fantastic. I would predict that you're going to probably double or triple that in the next 6 to 9 months. I think that people are going to see the benefit of this this type of technology. Well, listen, Yong, I wish you continued success, and it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. I think it's been in many times when we've had like little things that we're working on, it feels like you're the command NASA and up and I'm the lunar module as you're walking me through the steps of how to make small iterations in the orthotics or just troubleshoot things that to make sure that the printing is running smoothly. So I really appreciate all the time that you dedicate for that.